Guys, mfiles.com. They help you with document management. They help you share files not only internally, but also with your customers so you can collaborate together. They've got over 5,000 paying customers, many of which, or some of which, pay over $1 million per year. They've grown 25 to 30% year over year for the past several years, just breaking 90 million bucks in ARR today, up from 75 million a year ago when they closed their Series C, 80 million, around 80 million USD. He was nice enough to share that 30 million of that was secondary, which is great for liquidity for early employees and investors. Now 600 folks on the team as they look to build conservatively moving forward and break that $100 million run rate early next year. Hey, folks, my guest today is Antti Navala. He's the founder and CEO of a company called mFiles, a global leader in information management. He started the mFiles business in Tampere, Finland, and currently lives in Austin, Texas. The mFiles metadata-driven document management platform enables knowledge workers to instantly find the right information in any context, automate business processes, and enforce information control. Antti, you ready to take us to the top?
Absolutely.
So Finland was the start. Now, what year did you launch this company in Finland?
Well, it's actually a long history with starting with my father's company in the architectural engineering business in way back. But let's say for me, the start was something around 2002 when we started developing the mFiles product.
I asked because I had my research team had two different dates, 1987 and 2005. So it sounds like you came in 2002, 2005 timeframe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. And this was something that your father had built to use internally at his architecture firm before then?
Well, that's how I got into business. I was watching my father run his AEC consulting company, and I did software as a hobby, and I was very interested in just finding ways to apply my software development skills to real world problems, and that's how I landed on this idea of how to make document management, especially in complex construction projects, more efficient. So that got me into developing mFiles.
And when you guys look at your customer cohorts today, do you still have a massive concentration around folks in the construction and architecture and engineering fields?
Not really. I thought we would be targeting that vertical initially, but pretty quickly we went to kind of more generic business document management, and we have a good number of engineering companies as our customers, but it's not our primary vertical.
I see. Okay, so give me a little bit of the story today, right? Tell me the story of a customer who's using you and exactly how they use you.
Well, our ideal customer is a knowledge work company, so companies in the professional services vertical, especially companies like management consulting firms, accounting firms, tax advisors, audit firms, companies that deal with a lot of information. They typically provide expert services for their clients, and for such companies, mFiles is really the operating system for them to run their business. They take information in, they apply their expertise to produce work outputs for their clients, and then they use our platform to manage all of that and in an organized fashion and in a secure fashion, but they also use our platform to share those work products with their clients and to collaborate.
Interesting. So are they paying, like if one architecture firm has 10 clients, will they pay for a seat for each client? And that's the key to you driving expansion revenue?
We actually charge by the seat of the employees in the firm. So let's say tax advisory firms. So the tax experts would be the mFiles users, and we basically let them serve any number of external clients. We don't charge by that.
Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your FounderPath dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right. So the teal is what a VC would pay. Yellow is what private equity. And red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise. They sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of FounderPath, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview. I see. Okay, so when you look at your ideal, sort of your sweet spot customer today, what would you say they're paying on average per month or per year for M files?
I'd say in the ideal customer segment, it's probably on average about 50,000 in ARR, so on an annual basis. We have a pretty broad range of smaller and larger customers, but that would be the average.
I'm curious what averages are dangerous. What's min max? What's cheapest someone can start with you, and what's biggest customer?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of business through our reseller partners, and in that kind of partner business segment, the typical annual prices would be a few $1,000s, let's say $5,000, and then we go up to our enterprise customers who pay well over $1 million per year.
Oh, this is great. So you already have individual customers paying more than $1 million per year.
Yeah, several.
This is great. This is one of the big things I see founders that are like 10, 20 million bucks in ARR struggle with. But in order to get to 70, 80, 90, 100 million, you've got to figure out how to get a couple customers paying that much. How did you do that?
It's been a fairly natural evolution for us, but I think part of it has definitely been getting to know our customers, like true business problems, better and understand where we offer the most value. So we continue to be on a journey of becoming more and more specialized and really serving those knowledge work companies well, because that's where we provide the best value, and those are the companies who can also then afford to pay most because of that value.
When a reseller sells M files for say $5,000 a year, do you own the relationship with the end customer, or do you have to go through the reseller?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Not sure there's a kind of a one straight answer. We let the reseller partner kind of own the commercial relationship with the customer as much as they can and want. We obviously have a direct subscription agreement with the customer too, but for us, the partners are the front-facing communicator to the customer. They provide the first level support, and we want it to be that way because that's how we can be efficient for that higher volume of smaller customers.
So you own sort of the credit card payment with them. The credit card payment doesn't go through the reseller.
No, it does go. So we invoice the reseller handles payments with the customer.
I see. Yeah. I see. Interesting. Okay, so if a reseller sells M files to their users for $5,000, how much of that $5,000 will the reseller keep versus it flows through to M files you?
I'm not going to disclose the specific percentages, but something like 30% would be kept by the partner.
Interesting. How do you regulate and make sure that a partner doesn't price cheaper than what you guys have on your own website? Then nobody would sign up on your own website. They'd all sign up via the cheaper reseller who's running Facebook ads or ads to that landing page.
Our product is, let's say, unfortunately a little bit more complex than something that you just buy and pay by credit card. So I don't think that's a true kind of a real practical problem for us. We don't enforce pricing to the customers. So our reseller partners would be free to price lower if they want to. I don't think they want to do it because they need to be in business too. But if some of them might value those implementation services revenue more, and might compromise on their margin on the SaaS piece, that would be fine. And I don't think it really changes things for us. If our customer wants to go through the partners, we are more than happy to let them do that.
I imagine a scenario where one of your sales reps is trying to close a $10,000 per year deal. And then they come back to the sales rep and say, sales rep, I just found this other reseller of M files. It looks like it does the same thing and they're giving it away for free. And then they go sign up for free because the reseller is effectively taking the margin hit on that. Do you see that happen a lot? And how do you prevent that from happening?
Not a lot. And we try to take a partner first approach. So if we are actually working on the same prospects, we would, let's say, give way to the partner and rather support them in winning the deal. Because I mean, the market is huge, and there are so many companies who need M-Files, who can benefit from M-Files. So our direct sales teams will have other prospects to work on.
And so, Antti, with all that context around your go-to-market resellers, the structure, how you price, et cetera, how many customers are you serving now today, all in?
Over 5,000 customers in total.
Interesting. And what percent of those came through a reseller?
It's about, let's say, revenue-wise, it's about 1/3. Okay. But in terms of number of customers, it's much higher, at least 80%, probably through partners.
Interesting. So what that means is the higher ARPU deals are going direct to M-Files, the lower ARPU deals, but higher volume go through the resellers.
Yeah, generally so. And that's probably also why we don't have that much channel conflict, because we don't necessarily compete for the same kind of deals.
Interesting. So if we take 5,000 total customers times 0.8, right, that means what? You've got 1,000 direct customers that are more enterprisey, and you've got 4,000 you've gotten through resellers, something like that.
Yeah, that's probably the right ballpark.
Interesting. Super interesting. Okay. Let's go into team a little bit. What's the team size today, and how many engineers?
We're about, let's say, over 600 employees, and I believe the engineering team is maybe 150.
Are you an engineer by trade or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I am. Yeah,
that's awesome. Do you still get to code or no?
Too little these days, but I did my best to keep doing that as long as I ever could.
All right, so 600 on the team, 150 engineers. How many quota carrying sales reps do you guys have?
It's in the order of 50 plus.
And is that the team you're building in Austin?
There's a good team in Europe, and there's a good team here in North America. So it's spread across our regions. We consider North America, Western Europe, and Nordics our primary sales regions, and then rest of the world through partners only.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. Talk to me a little bit about how you're scaling the sales team, right? Everyone listening is going, man, I have 10 reps. I'm trying to figure out what quota to set for my mid-market enterprise reps in 2023. How did you think about quota targets?
Yeah, right now I feel we have, let's say, enough capacity in our sales teams that we don't want to just go and hire new sales reps. I think for our company, the challenge is to keep improving the efficiency or productivity of the sales team. I think over time, our sales reps can close more ARR per sales rep. So let's say we are very focused in figuring out how to best do that. Should we invest more in marketing? How to be smarter in how we sell, and should we just increase our brand awareness in the US market to help sales? But it's not so much about scaling the team size currently. It's about getting to larger deals and making sure that the time the team spends with the prospects is like well spent.
Makes sense. And so when you add the engineers plus the systems you've built plus the product that you've built, I mean, if we take 1,000 customers that you own directly at about a $50,000 ACV, that's $50 million in revenue right there. And then you said the customers you don't own directly because they're resellers make up about 1/3 of your total revenue. So that's another 25 million on top of that. Is it fair to say you're around a 75 million run rate today?
Yeah, well, a little bit bigger than that. We're just above 90 million in ARR. So kind of like our our next focus, obviously crossing that nice 100 million mark. Not quite there yet, but getting close.
You're doing obviously sort of Q4 planning and maybe closing it out here shortly, maybe looking at 2023 already. When you go back and look at the goals you set at the beginning of this year, 2022, is 90 million beating those goals or did you come under those goals?
We're just at plan, which I
You're
think
right up.
is
Wow.
which I think is good given everything that's happened this year. We could always want to exceed the plan, but being at plan this year, I think it's a good
Impressive.
achievement.
So if you're at about a 90 million run rate today, where were you exactly a year ago?
75.
Okay, interesting. Okay, good. So healthy growth. I mean, I'm not. It's obviously hard to double 75 million year over year.
Yeah. It's kind of we've never been a kind of a super growth company, that I have to admit. So it's been more of this, 25-30% growth in the past years. But sustaining that and doing it in an efficient manner, not really burning cash. I think that's kind of the profile of
Yep.
who we are.
And does that mean you finished 2020 somewhere around 50 million in ARR? 50?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. This is very cool. Now, I guess I should take this back. Obviously, we don't want to track you all the way back to 1987 when your father first started. I don't even know when you were born, but when you joined the company back in 2000, I think you said 2002, what was revenue? Do you remember?
Well, we were close to zero at that point. There's quite a lot of history there that maybe we don't have time to discuss today. But yeah, it's kind of like it was the starting point for us. A couple of persons starting the development of M Files with the funding of something I had created a little bit earlier. So that allowed us to be bootstrapped for the early years. So we did all of the development of the product in the early years just with revenue of my previous product, and then we got all the way to 9 million in revenue before we raised our A round in 2013.
And what was that? The size of that A round?
6 million euros.
Okay, so call it like seven. Well, back then it would have been higher, right? It would have been 8 million
probably
US
seven,
dollars.
8. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then keep filling out the funding history for us. I think you did another round in 2016.
Yeah, that was our B round. Again, in euros, that was a 33 million euro, so maybe $36 million B round. We did a debt financing round in 2018 and 27 million euros, and then a little bit opportunistically we did a C round, which we announced in January 2021. That was a bigger one, 67 million euros, 8 million USD.
And most folks at Series C stage, especially raising last year when things were so hot, I mean, there were people selling just 5 to 10% of their companies in a Series C. Were you sort of in that same average?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the reason I'm asking is there's also a lot of folks, a Chili Piper comes to mind, Capado comes to mind, CoreLogic comes to mind, where these Series Cs, there was a big chunk of them, 50% of them were secondaries. Was that 80 million that you raised US dollars, did that go on the balance sheet or was a bunch of that secondary as well?
Yeah, there was some secondary there. We as a company, we didn't necessarily need additional funding at that point. So our way of thinking was that, yes, it's good to get additional buffer into the business, but it was also an opportunity to offer liquidity for some earlier investors and earlier co-founders or employees who had already left the business. So to be even more precise, we used about 30 million of that 80 for secondary.
And thanks for sharing that. Founders are always asking me how to structure these and how do you get investors to say, yes, Antti, you can take 30 million off the table?
It wasn't difficult at all at those times. Probably the same experience with others, that investors were very eager to invest in our business, and since we were cash flow positive or cash flow neutral, so like the business didn't really need a lot of additional capital, so they're really the only sensible way for investors to be able to to put more
Get in.
money in is to us like, so how could that be used? And none of us who stayed with the business were that interested in selling any. But yeah, it's a different thing if you've already left the business early on, like with our longer history that some people had left. So I think it was a really good arrangement for everybody. Investors could put a little bit more in, and those who had left the business earlier were able to get liquidity.
And Antti, 67 million euros back then, caught 78, 79 million US dollars, selling 5 to 10%. I mean, you were flirting with that $1 billion sort of valuation on a post money basis, but it sounds like you didn't get above that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm not willing to share the actual valuation, so you can speculate as much as you can. But yeah, we're leaving that to the market.
Well, I did ask you earlier if you sold the average in a Series C, which is 5 to 10%, and you seem to agree. So if you sold the maximum amount of 10%, that would put you, if you raised 80 million USD, that'd put you at just under $1 billion valuation. The reason I'm asking is markets have compressed since then, right? So how have you dealt with the storyline to your, I mean, this is across all companies. How have you dealt in that storyline to your user, your customer, your employees that are saying, hey, are we doing another round, in the next 6 months? Is valuation going to go up? How do you manage that?
Well, first of all, just to be clear, I'm not confirming that your range is actually correct. But let's say, generally speaking, I don't think we did anything at a high valuation. We have done all of our funding rounds with the mentality that we want a clean structure, like clean terms for the company, and fair market valuation for the investors and us, because that keeps us on that track of increasing in valuation as our business grows. And I think that's what has happened to us. So maybe we've avoided some of the hype peaks, but the benefit of that is that everybody can focus on just growing the business and understanding that valuation keeps increasing. So yeah, I feel very good about the terms and rounds that we've completed, and I actually, I mean that you're after something really important, because it's not necessarily an easy situation for a company to, let's say, succeed to raise money at the peak of the valuations and then have to deal with the potential downsides of that if and when sometimes the multiples also compress.
Yeah, you're a conservative. The reason I ask you, you're a conservative founder, which I love, right? You had 75 million bucks in revenue. It sounds like you didn't go try and raise at a 50x multiple, right? Maybe you raised at a more conservative, realistic 20 or 30x multiple, which today now you look like a genius, because all the people that raised at 40 and 50 and 60x multiples are down, and you're growing, right? Your valuation, you can tell a growth story there. So, I love how you're building the company. I appreciate making time for me. We're out of time though. Let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite book.
Yeah, for me, it's one of the first ones I read as a business book, Jim Collins, Good to Great. That appealed to me.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Not really.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building M files?
Well, yeah, I thought you might ask that, and I have to say that as a software engineer, there's really nothing that beats, the dev environments like Visual Studio and Git, and that. Maybe not like the traditional online tools you would get as an answer, but those are my favorite environments.
I know we like variety. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
7.5 hours on average.
Okay, and situation: married, single, kids?
Married and 2 kids.
2 kiddos. And Antti, how old are you?
11 and 9.
No, you.
Oh, sorry. 44.
I'm like, you look great for, 11 year 44. All right, Antti, last question. Something you wish you knew when you were 20.
Yeah, I was very product and engineering focused. So I guess I should have known that there's so much more than just building the product that you need to do.
Guys, mfiles.com. They help you with document management. They help you share files not only internally, but also with your customers so you can collaborate together. They've got over 5,000 paying customers, many of which, or some of which, pay over $1 million per year. They've grown 25 to 30% year over year for the past several years, just breaking 90 million bucks in ARR today, up from 75 million a year ago when they closed their Series C. Around 80 million USD. He was nice enough to share that 30 million of that was secondary, which is great for liquidity for early employees and investors. Now now 600 folks on the team as they look to build conservatively moving forward and break that $100 million run rate early next year. Antti, thank you for taking us to the top.
Thanks, Nathan. It was a pleasure.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.